You are now listening to Ride With Me, the Flat Tire Podcast.
Welcome to Ride With Me, episode 151. Today is March 7, 2026. And Jay, like I said, is back on this episode. I'll introduce her in a bit. I want to start with the same spiel, the hotline, 818-806-8595. You guys already know you can star 67 and you can call, leave a voice message or a question, whatever you want. It's a free-for-all. You can do whatever you want on there. My point was to plug in your question on the future episode, but in the meantime, if you want to just call and say hi, that's fine. Instagram, Ride With Me Podcast. TikTok, FTA_podcast. YouTube, FTA_podcast. And then the sponsors. Hit the open road with peace of mind with SolarX Insurance. Whether you ride a motorcycle or need an SR22, SolarX can help. They offer fast, friendly, and affordable coverage. Don't let insurance stress slow you down. Call 877-736-4719 and let SolarX get you back on the road. 877-736-4719 and give them a call. And then really quick, I thought of something after the fact. You guys probably heard it on the last episode, but the point of the podcast, like the topic or the meaning, I said it was kind of like carpool karaoke. After I said that, I was like, wait a minute. No, in reality, we're going for a drive, right? Because it opens up with the sound of a flat tire, right? We're going for a ride. We get a flat tire, and pretty much we're having this conversation while we're waiting for AAA. That's best. That's even better. That story's better, right? So yes, we're driving, get a flat tire. We're podcasting while we wait for AAA. But let's get into the recap really quick. This is a trigger warning episode. My guest does say something that you might not like. I don't know exactly at what point she says it, but the moment she starts talking about a friend and their dad, something about domestic violence, and the child was left with the dad, I don't know if you want to fast forward that part or listen to it, but it is a trigger warning. And then, so we start off by talking about, Jay uses walking to relieve stress. So she went for a walk this morning before we got on the podcast, not only realizing that there's fucking alligators where she lives. So she was, oh shit, but we do touch on homelessness to avoid domestic violence. Homelessness she moved from place to place, being pregnant and being homeless with twins at that point. She stayed with her husband. She had I believe she said she was living in a relative's cousin's house. And the cousin overheard them fighting, and the cousin stepped in, and Jay chose her husband and moved in and took off. She recalls the day that she went to a certain retail store, and had to steal a tent just to be able to have somewhere to sleep. She at one point left her daughter with her mom, so that her daughter wouldn't be staying with them in the car or in the tent. She also had to shower with friends and families, and she struggled a little bit with mental health, and then, battling from depression, and then having a son with autism that only not even 4 years old is taking off and wandering into the streets, having to call the police, and now the police getting involved because, hey, you're not taking care of your kids. Like, what's going on? So, I believe that, in this episode, Jay was more real, and she did, express a lot of feelings in this episode. Last episode, she said it herself. She was more of a goofball. And like I told her, there's people that hit me up and said, hey, Jay's funny. She's a funny lady. So, like I said, this one was more deep, more raw, and more serious episode. Again, if you enjoy this episode, again, please leave a review on Spotify. I've said it before, Spotify is the main source of the podcast. Spotify sends it to Pandora, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, YouTube is me, and iHeartRadio. I think it also goes to Castbox and stuff like that. You can rate on Spotify. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts. But again, the only ones that I get credit for, if you follow me on Pandora, Alexa, Apple, the only one that counts is the one on Spotify. So if you don't use the Spotify app, just log in through a browser and just hit that follow button. Even if you don't have Spotify on your phone, just hit that follow so I can get credit for it. And yes, thank you again. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Until next time, thank you. Welcome back, Jay.
Hi, good morning, Andy.
I'm gonna apologize from the start. I feel like shit. I probably sound like shit. I
You,
my
you look great. You sound
thank
great.
you. Well, I've had runny nose and scratchy throat and everything for the past couple of days. I one of the guys that was supposed to podcast with, I was supposed to podcast with him yesterday. I sent him an audio, and it was like the way he responded back. He's like, "Holy shit, you sound like Darth Vader." And then and then I was gonna go play golf in the morning before I recorded. My wife straight out said, "The fact that you canceled golf, you're sick. You are sick."
Right, exactly. Well, I appreciate you
No
powering
problem.
through because I know we've been missing each other, and I'm hard to catch. I'm like a Pokemon. I mean, like you gotta catch me when you get. I'm juggling always so much, so I really do appreciate
No
your
problem. Like I said,
flexibility.
like even you told me right now before I started recording, you said we can cancel, we can try it again. But like I told you, my OCD will not allow that to happen. Why? Because I already stated in the episode that's dropping in a couple of days that you will be on the next episode. So
Yeah,
I cannot. My OCD does not allow me to do that shit. So
perseverance.
if I have to cough or blow my nose, sorry for that. You listeners will not hear that. Jay will.
Yeah.
So
And I was just telling him, I'm like, I got 3 kids, 2 dogs. I won't even notice it.
You've seen it all.
Yeah, overstimulation.
This
always.
is my 3rd tea. So hopefully I can relax. This cup, my brother came over and he was like, we gave him this cup to drink coffee out of, and he's like, "What are you trying to say? I'm the dirty kid?" It was funny. You know what's funny about that? What's funny about that is because when he was a child, he didn't like to take showers.
Oh, well, then it fits, right?
I don't know what's this guy's name.
Sometimes you need a.
What's this guy's name? He's from the Nosberry Farm on. What's his name?
From Peanuts.
Oh,
from
Pigpen. Sorry, this is Pigpen. His name is in the back of the mug, like all big and shit.
Sometimes you need a giant coffee mug type of day.
Oh yeah.
I'm on my 2nd energy drink. I just cracked this one open.
Ooh.
So I've been up since like 5.
Oh well, so, I woke up 3 a.m. my time, and then I saw your text message. I'm going to bed for another 45 minutes.
That's why I was like, let me text him early.
Yeah.
I wanted to catch the sunrise. And then there was like some Karen on the trail, and
we actually last night ran out. My son and I. He likes to take photos. He likes is it astronomy? The sky.
Yeah.
And it was the I think like 5 or 6 planets were aligned last night. And
wow.
But we went out there kind of like an hour too late, so all we got to see was where Jupiter was at, and I think Neptune. So, and I have a telescope, but I didn't have time to prep it, to set it up. I can connect my camera to it and everything. But we because my youngest and myself were watching WWE Elimination Chamber, so we didn't have a time, our alarm clock to go run outside at a certain time. But it is what it is.
No, I love stargazing. Actually, like here in Florida, it is, especially I'm in like a smaller town, and I like going. I either have to do things at the crack of dawn, or I have to do them late in the evening. So either before my children are awake or after they go to bed. And so that's normally when I go out and walk the dogs or run or bike. And I'll probably look like a crackhead, but I'm like, this is my only time. And so I've never seen the stars like I've seen them since Florida. You and your son, your family, you guys should come visit. You always have a place to stay. I would take you to some of the most beautiful stargazing places. You almost feel like I can see on one of my favorite spots, the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. Yeah. Like I almost feel like I could grab them. You know what I mean?
A couple of years ago, we had rented an Airbnb in Big Bear. It was maybe like maybe like 30 minutes from Big Bear, but it was up on the mountain. I think the town is called Victoria, and we rented an Airbnb there. And the lady was so strict on who she rented the Airbnb to, that she asked my wife, "What is your purpose?" And then my wife's like,
damn.
well, yeah. My wife responded, first of all, it's my youngest son's birthday. He wanted to go to Big Bear. Second, my oldest son just got into photography, and he wants to take pictures of the sky, which he got a nice, beautiful shot of the Little Dipper and the Big Dipper. We were out.
Oh, you have to send it to me if you don't mind.
We were out there. We were out there till like maybe 11:30. We started hearing howlings, and I was like, "We're out. We're going inside. We're running inside. Fuck that shit."
Immediately, that was me this morning when it was still like kind of dusk or dawn, whatever it is. And you know, I'm chilling. I got my headphones on. I got my pit only with me, and it's swampy. I said, "Hold up, Jasenia. Don't forget there's alligators out." I almost got a little too comfortable for a second.
I repeated this before. I'm not sure where, on what episode, but we went to go and baptize my goddaughter back in 2022. We went to Connecticut for the first time. And wrong timing to clean your lens.
Well, what did you find?
I heard all that stuff. No, I'm saying it was wrong timing for you to clean your desk.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The screen, I'm so sorry. I told you my kids were in my office. Yeah. There's fingerprints everywhere.
So anyway, so we go to Connecticut. We visit. We're staying at this house, and I decide, because I have a brand new camera as well, I decide to start walking, because 10-minute walk down the street, there was this little bridge that reminded me of the bridge from Beetlejuice, the one where they fell off and died.
Yeah.
It wasn't that one, obviously, but it was a similar bridge. So I'm like, I wanted to go take a photo of that bridge. Maybe about 2 minutes into the walk, I realized, I looked back, I can't see the house anymore. That was just on 2-minute walk. And then about 5 minutes into the walk, I was like, wait a minute, there's fucking bears out here. Because when that
was my alligator moment.
When my new compadre, and I've said it last time, my goddaughter's father, he went to go pick us up from the airport, and no joke, 10 minutes into the drive, a freaking black bear just ran in front of us. And I was like, oh shit, that was the first time I've seen a bear in person, right? So like I said, I'm walking, and then I realized, holy shit, there's fucking bears out here. And then
you just saw one on the street.
Yep. And then I looked to my right, my left, and I was like, oh look, a hiking trail. So I looked into the hiking trail. I'm like, dude, I don't learn. But it was cool because this little park, they had kids out there practicing their karate, and then in the distance there was this, like, I've only seen that in movies. These kids were swinging off a rope and diving into the lake. You know, it was like,
so cool.
I told my wife, we're retiring in Connecticut. We are moving to Connecticut. So
I'm like, it's funny because, you know, I'm like I was saying, I think last time, I'm in my little bubble, but whenever I go out into like nature, which I'm a very nature person, you know, I might not look it. I might not look it, but I bike, I jog, I walk the dogs, I kayak, you know, I have a longboard, I have skateboards, I got a surfboard, boogie boards. Like, I like to be out in the nature. It's very grounding, very therapeutic. It's quite honestly necessary for my mental health. But the more and more time I spend here in Florida and in nature, especially when the weather is nice right now and is allowing it, I just feel like, oh yeah, like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
There you go.
This lifestyle is gonna fit me. You know, Florida's gonna Florida. like, let's be real. But there was so much negativity from everybody when I moved to Florida, and this will segue right into the topic. You know, we're gonna go into.
Okay.
So there was a lot of negativity. You know, because it's Florida, and there's a lot, you know, people have their own ideas, and you're always hearing on the news, Florida man, Florida woman, and it is wild. I mean, I didn't realize what a bubble I lived in until I moved out here.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love it, and I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And also, you know, I know people, they weren't trying to be like negative, you know, they were just worried and like, are you sure you know, like, are you sure you know you want to do this and that and the other? But when you're going through like a major life transition like that, I don't know if people realize like how powerful their words are. And so when you're like saying little things like that, it can be, you know, you're adding to the stress or adding to the fear that's already existing.
Right.
But for me, like, I felt like a lot of people forgot, like, I was homeless.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. And I know that's something that we're going to, that we want to talk about today. It's a little emotional for me because I still carry, shame around it.
Yeah.
I'm really working on releasing that. And I was thinking this morning, I went on the run, I was meditating, praying. I've had a rough 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm so glad to be doing this with you, Andy. You have no idea. It feels like the perfect timing. And I'm like, I'm ready to like release this pain, release this shame, and move forward with my life. And it's not that I won't talk about like trauma and this and all the things, because, I'm someone who likes to advocate for those things, but I'm like, the direction that I'm going to start speaking about is going to be a little bit different, about like perseverance and hope and, having the right people around you and maintaining that fight when you're going through it. Because it's easy when you're already out of the gutter. It's easy when you already have. I mean, the name of the episode is Instability. Like, I'm still trying to grab that stability. So once you're there, it's easy to say, like, you're going to get through it. But, like, when you're actually in it, like, like I'm actually in it, I think, like, that's when it's the most important for people to hear, like, hey, I ain't got it yet. In fact, I lost some of it, but I'm still trying to get it,
Right.
So.
Right. Well, let's dive into it. Let's start talking about it. You did say, I forgot to touch on last episode that you were on about homelessness. I believe you said you guys were homeless when you guys were kids, and then again as an adult. So let's touch on the first time, when you were kids. How did that brain fart right now?
All come to play. No, I got you. You're doing better than I would be doing. That's for sure.
My wife did not want me to come out here today. I'm like, I have to. I have to.
Pobrecito. I would have been the same way. Like, babe, sit your little ass down. But you guys, you men, we gotta let you guys be men.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, no. So when did you first become homeless?
Yeah, I've been homeless on and off since I was a child, and I think, like, for me, it's another one of those, like, not family secrets, but it's one of those things that, like, you don't talk about openly. And looking at me as a child or looking at me as an adult, especially, the last, like, 6 months I was on the podcast back home, Grown Folks, I was homeless. I was unhoused. And so, it can be almost jarring or confusing, to see me and then understand that. So I think, like, we were always, because of the cycle of domestic violence in my household and the poverty, we've always lived in poverty. That's when the homelessness started, because we were leaving the home to, escape the violence. And then, my mom, God bless her soul, is a single mom with 2 children, so she doesn't have the means to be able to put us somewhere else. So with the homelessness I experienced, or being unhoused that I experienced with my mom, was more so we were always moving from one person's home to another, whether it was like a family friend, a tia, whether we were like staying in hotels for a few nights. And that was often. I think I talked about, or me and you talked about it, I don't know if it was privately or on the pod, about how I moved often. So literally my entire life, since I can have any memories, I moved 1 to 2 to 3 times a year. And that was because, we were losing our home, whether it was, the parents were separating, so couldn't afford it anymore, or we needed to get into a safer environment, and, mom needed to do what she needed to do, save up and recover and stack up and move us on to the next place, which is so interesting to see how I have continued that pattern into adulthood, and then just really how when you're living with scarcity and how like what they say, like, you know, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Most people are one financial emergency away from being homeless as well. And there's so many people. I bet people, especially in San Diego, you interact with somebody you work with, you go to the gym with, you may see like, and you would never know that they were unhoused as well. So more so like how I really experienced like homelessness as an adult and twice, you know, like that was not once, but twice right before I left San Diego, which is why, tying back in real quick, I moved to Florida. Like that's why I was going back to like, you know, my some of the people close to me in my life kind of giving me a hard time about Florida. And I'm like, why y'all forgetting? Like, I really have a choice. Like, you know, like
exactly.
I really kind of don't. Like I did, but I didn't, you know? And so you always have a choice, but sometimes you only got one choice, you know?
Exactly.
And I had already exhausted all of my options. And even put my trust into somebody in the community, and it backfired, and ended up finding out he was like a predator, and it was a lot. And it was like, okay, I have to go. Like, I need to go now. So the first time I ended up unhoused was when not long after I got married. Not long after I got married, I was working for myself. I had my own small business doing organizing and professional cleaning. And with that, I was able to handle all my bills and everything. I wasn't on any government assistant. And then I picked up a part-time job when I was a valet captain, downtown San Diego. Love that job. That was so fun, driving all the whips. But then I got married. My was technically still married, but so what should we call him? Ex-husband,
Jeff.
Husband, Jeff. All right, we'll call him Jeff. My Jeff. And then meeting Jeff, we ended up getting married quickly. We got married within 4 months of knowing one another. I was married before I got pregnant. It wasn't a shotgun wedding.
Right.
But I never planned on, like, I never wanted to be married because of from what I experienced, how men operated in relationships in my family was, it was very controlling, and it was violent, and it was, you know, so I was always like, hell nah, don't sign me up for that. And then I literally signed my name in blood for it. Like, and so, you know, yeah, that cycle repeated. And so, he came to the country legally, and then overstayed. And when we met, we had a lot of plans of working here and where he's from, in another part of the world.
Right.
And so I was like, you know what? Like, I'm very business mind oriented, and so is he. And I fell in love with him. I loved him. He cared for me in a way I never had been cared for. But we were also very business minded. And so I was like, well, let's just get married. So that way we can, you know, finalize your documentation, and we can move from your country to my country, and we can do the things that we want to do. And so that, you know, that was the big game plan. And then I got violently sick, lost like 30 pounds, was like ghosted, white as a ghost. Maybe I lost like 10, 15 pounds. And he forced me, like, you know, a month or so after we got married. And, you know, I think that, like, and I want to say really quick, I don't like a blanket statement. There is no rule for like partnership and marriage working out. However, so, you know, for some people, you meet them, you marry in 3 months, and you're in love forever, and, you know, God willing, it works. But for most of us, you know, you really need time. As you're older, you need less time. You know yourself better. But I think, you know, cautionary tale a little bit. Like, even if you're really in love, like Jeff used to tell me, love is not enough. Like, love is not enough. And I didn't get it until we were separated. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it now. So just be mindful of that. But so I ended up getting really sick, and I went to the emergency room because he was like, enough is enough. And I found out, you know, I was pregnant with twins. I was like, I thought my appendix burst, you know, and so that turned into around the exact same time, my landlord, who I was renting a home from in National City, she was living in a different part of the country. She wanted to come back home. So she said, I'm coming back home. Here's your notice. I'm going to, move back into my house.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, when I went to the emergency room, that's when I knew I was pregnant. I took an at-home test, but that's when they told me I was pregnant with the twins. And that's also when they diagnosed me with hyperemesis gravidarum. All of this is important because this is how I led into homelessness.
Real quick, can you educate us on that term you just said?
Yes, thank you so much for asking, because hyperemesis gravidarum, or HG is what they call it for short, is a very rare pregnancy. I don't know, disease is the right word, but only 1 to 3% of women have HG. They get it when they're pregnant. And essentially, I'm not a doctor, folks, but I did a lot of research, and speaking very plainly, it's when your body is having almost like an allergic reaction, is rejecting the pregnancy hormones. And so for some people, it's a scale. Everything's a spectrum, right? So some people may, profusely vomit and their entire pregnancy. And then some may only do 4 months of it. Some people end up on bed rest and with a feeding tube. Some people end up hospitalized all the time. And so I was towards the later, and I ended up on bed rest so many times and hospitalized many times, to the point where I couldn't keep anything down. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink anything. And I was losing so much weight. At the end of my pregnancy, I had lost 80 pounds. I was pregnant with twins.
Damn.
And, they had me on, the doctors were concerned because I was nursing. And they were like, you are severely malnutritioned and dehydrated. And I was like, yeah, well, I've been fucking homeless the entirety of my pregnancy. I can't eat anything, and I'm vomiting all the time. And when you're vomiting all the time, your stomach is contracting. So I was just in constant pain. Eventually, because I couldn't even drink water, they had to give me an IV. And so I had to keep the IV inside, an IV port inside of my wrist. And then they taught my Jeff how to switch out my fluids, and I had to be connected to the IV for 5 hours a day. And I hated it.
Damn.
And sometimes I wouldn't do it. And I hate the hospital. So sometimes I would be sick for days until, a staff member at the maternity house would be like, you have to go. Because she found me naked on the bathroom floor, passed out. Oh. But the point is, I got so severely ill, I wasn't able to run my small business. I was I was the everything. At the same time, my Jeff, he's undocumented. So work isn't always easy, or people will not pay him. Sure. Another time I'll have to tell you privately how I had to go downtown and thug out a little bit on a, on a bar owner and be like, hey, maybe he don't speak English, but I do. And I'm from here.
Yeah.
So give me this man's money immediately. So, there was a lot of stuff like that, or people, taking advantage of him because of his status. And
right.
So all of that was this perfect storm of us trying to figure out, what are we going to do? Where are we going to land? I immediately, and I had resources. So that's the other thing. There's this misconception sometimes. People are like, I don't hate. It deeply disturbs me when people say, I generally don't like blanket statements, but it deeply disturbs me when people say they're homeless because they want to be. They could be in a shelter. They could be here. They could be there. Well, you tell me where they are, because I'm very resourceful. I have people connected in social services. I've worked in social services, and it's not like that. There are some people that may, but to assume that is so incorrect, And right. So there was a resource that was going to pay for my first month and my last month or like, and my deposit, something like maybe the first month and the deposit. And it was through the county of San Diego, and I was approved. I applied and I was approved. And this was right when my landlord was moving back, this is all like in a 2-month, 3-month period. And nobody would touch it. Nobody would touch it. They were like, because you had to fill out the paperwork, the landlord had to provide all their tax information, and you have to give it back to the caseworker. The caseworker has to process it. Then they have to approve it. It's, when you're competing with people, especially the way San Diego is right now, that have cash in hand, they're like, I can sell you the deposit right now. Nobody wants to go through the hassle and the red tape. And furthermore, when you are receiving some kind of assistance, government assistance to live somewhere, there is the idea that maybe you're going to be, I want to use you're going to be quote unquote, ghetto, and you're going to mess up the place, or you're not going to care for it. So there's this idea that poverty is instantly connected to, misuse. Whereas, what it really is sometimes is like when you're poor, you don't have the means to buy cleaning supplies, or, you get so depressed and get overwhelmed. There's so many things that go into it. So that also is a roadblock. And so at that point, I was couch surfing. We went separate ways. He was at one friend's house. I was at my cousin's. As she was moving out, I was helping her pack up and move. So that worked out. We did try to live at we moved up to Hemet, and my, family members, God bless them, they were willing to open their home to us. We actually moved into the garage to try to have a little more privacy. Me and Jeff, tried to make it as homely as we could. My daughter, at this point, I'm pregnant. By the way, the HG is going on the whole time during all of this. I was not one of the lucky ones. I did not grow out of it. It got progressively worse as I got more and more pregnant. Right. And so we went up to him for a while. I was blessed. My Theos came and helped pack us up from the house, and we put everything in a storage up in Hemet, and we were like, okay, fresh start, let's do it. We can get on our feet. And we just couldn't, we weren't as comfortable. We didn't have the privacy. I was severely sick, and my marriage was turning toxic, and it wasn't, I don't know if it was abusive at that point, because he didn't abuse me. Oh, nah. There were some moments, never mind. But it wasn't to the point where we were escalated, right? That was only 5 months, 6 months into our marriage. And so the worst was yet to come. And so that wasn't, he's stressed out because he can't find work, because he's doing delivery and handyman, but we're in the middle of Hemet, and it's little. And so he can't find work quicker like he can in the city, which now we're stressed, and it wasn't working. And we ended up getting into a big argument in the garage, and my cousin, who's my brother, he overheard us, and he came down, and he was like, what the fuck? Why are you talking to my sister this type of way? And now I'm like, these men are both men, machismo men that will not hesitate equally. And I love them both. And I'm like, de-escalate immediately, and so, cause he's like, I don't remember. He's probably like, you dumb bitch. Why are you getting cussed out like this? And so I'm upset. I'm mad, and I don't know what to do. And Jeff is like, I'm leaving immediately. I'm leaving. I'm getting myself in. And here I am, how many months pregnant? Maybe 4 or 5 months pregnant, homeless. We only have the one car, and I'm like, do I stay here or do I go with my husband? Right. I chose to go with my husband, which, that was difficult because people were upset with me for that choice, which understandably. Understandably. But, it was, I think it's easy, it's easy to throw stones at a glass, at a glass house. So but that's how we ended up, as I call, homeless. Like, so we drive back to San Diego because he's like, I need to work. And we begin immediately living in the car. My car is, we had 2 cars, but one got towed and then we got it back. We had a little tiny, what are those little cars that go really fast? I can't think of it. Mini Cooper. We had a Mini Cooper and then I had a Ford Fiesta, a little Ford Fiesta. So neither one of our cars and our Mini Cooper was a drop top. Okay. And a 2-door. So none of us had cars to live in. And so we needed some money, quick money. So we ended up selling the Mini Cooper for way less than we both know it's worth. We're both familiar and he works with cars. And, we got this nasty, I'm traumatized from roaches for my life. We got this nasty motel in Spring Valley right there when you first get into Rancho San Diego by the old tennis courts. And, there was literally I deep cleaned it, but there were little baby roaches everywhere. And we stayed there for a few days and just were okay, what are we going to do? And then we ran out of money and we ended up just literally living in the car for maybe 2 months. And we would park in different parking lots in different, park in different parking lots, like big Walmart parking lots. We ended up, by the beach because at some point I could not, I was also with him all day driving around while he was doing delivery while I'm sick as fuck. Excuse my language.
No worries.
And so it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't think I've ever told this story publicly, but we're going to keep it real and raw today because people need to understand, when life puts you in certain positions and your back is against the wall, sometimes you got to scrape and crawl and get it how you can get it. And so at that point, again, I wasn't on government assistance. So when I became homeless, it takes a while. So we had no money. I had finally just got a little SNAP card, thank God. So we're starting to get EBT, but I was like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot. I said, let's go to Walmart right now. He pulls up at Walmart. I said, just park right here. You wait. When I come back out, let's go. I literally walked into Walmart, grabbed a little, 2-3 person tent and walked right back out that motherfucker. And, and that's that. And we went and set it up over there in South Mission. We would do OBs, but I like South Mission. There's a few spots under the bridge and different little places where you can kind of get away setting up camp for a few days before the Rangers come and, tear you all down. So that was the beginning of me kind of living homeless in a tent on the beach, by myself, for a while, at least, a month or 2.
You know what's funny? I always use the word, what's funny? I always say that, but
this shit is hilarious.
When I
literally,
yeah,
this is a joke.
When
my life is a joke.
It's not a joke. When my brother and I were talking on the last episode, and we were mentioning how we used to live in this house way over there, at the end of Port Hueneme, and I ended up taking off because the mother of my kids was back in my life, and I never I did not learn back then, and it came to the point I love camping, so I already had camping gear, and I think we slept in our car maybe once or twice, but for most part, I couldn't bring the mother of my kids to the apartment that I just helped get with my brother because the mother of my kids is causing problems with my siblings and shit like that, sleeping with my little brother and everything. So, we ended up for most part staying at a campsite, and we met this gentleman that he did back over here in Oxnard. They did what they called hawks. We were hawkers. That's what he called it. We were selling newspapers at the corner of the street. And I found this perfect little corner.
Hideaway spot?
A corner.
Yeah.
A corner where I can sell the most newspapers. Yeah. It's funny
a
because
busy corner.
Yeah, it's funny because we just recently went to that town. There's a restaurant down the street from there that my kids love to eat at, and it's just like I drove by it and it's just flashbacks. So I would make enough money selling papers to cars driving by that we would survive to sleep at at a hotel maybe one or twice, and the rest of the week it had to be a campsite because campsite was cheaper. So okay, we can we can sleep here. The beautiful thing about the campsite we always went to, they always had like a shower, so that was beautiful.
Yeah.
But luckily we never got to that point where we had to sleep under a bridge. But it's funny because again I say that a lot. Because the mother of my kids once said that was the best time of my life, and I'm like, us sleeping, because I felt like I was the not providing for my family, letting them sleep in a freaking in a tent. And back then it was only I think back then it was four of us. My daughter and my son was already born, so I had to find a way to make sure that we slept under a roof, regardless if it was a tent or not. And then the beautiful thing is that my buddy Frank, wherever we stayed at, he followed. So we had each other's support. And we slept in tents as well. But this is before, obviously this is way before I ended up being homeless myself and going and staying at Luis's house. Yeah. But for before that, we used to sleep in tents, and we used to, we used to hustle because she used to get on the phone and start calling this list of old newspaper people that used to receive the newspaper at home. So while I was over here selling on the corner the newspaper, she was calling, making like customer service calls, and to see we can get new subscriptions.
She was calling.
So for every subscription she sold, he would give her $20. So we survived. We hustled, and up until we got a place, and then after that, the rest is history.
That's what you. Yeah, amen. God bless you. I know that going through that with your family, especially as a man, is a different thing. On your psychology as well. I think like that was something I didn't realize. I was public about my homeless journey the first time, but because of what happened, the backlash, and just what happened, what I received from people being, that vulnerable was rough. I got a lot of judgment. People told me to my face they lost respect for me. People told me they thought I was stronger than that. People told me I should give up my children for adoption, and so the second time when we became homeless, when I was literally podcasting every week, I was private about it. I was a lot more private. Some people might have been able to put two and two together if they follow me on Instagram and see like, oh, where is she in a motel, or is she in the car a lot, and so we definitely also stayed at campgrounds when we could hustle enough money. And I was just like, when we needed a shower, like my Jeff had a job interview coming up, and I'm a barber, but we needed outlets so I could cut his hair, and like we stayed at KOA I think maybe twice, which is nice because they have the hot showers. I mean, that's another thing. That's a whole other thing about showering and like taking care of yourself, and I will say like my Jeff was always working, always hustling. And then me, on the other hand, I literally was like, had to reach out to any and everybody. I had to drop all my pride, all my ego, and be like, I need help. And you know what? A lot of people came through for me. I mean, I eventually ended up opening a GoFundMe. And I mean, I had ex-boyfriends donating money. I had like people I worked with, people who followed me online, like people who I thought like maybe didn't even pay attention to me, strangers. And so, with the hustle and the support, you make it through. But I think that like showering, like that's I want to hit two things on that because that's such a huge thing, like the hygiene, and I showed, a little bit of that routine where you can do the bird bath. We would go to the park every morning. I am not finished processing that PTSD because I know this might sound a little graphic, but when I go to the park a lot with my children, whenever I go into the bathroom stall or, I clean it off and I sit down and that freezing cold jolt, and it reminds me of all the times where I was using the public beach and park restrooms to get ready and, pregnant with twins and having to go to the bathroom a lot in the middle of the night, or literally when we were in the tent, popping a squat, when I was living in my car, opening the doors and having to literally use the restroom outside like an animal, and then having to say like, where can I shower? Where can I shower? I'll never forget the time that I called a family member, a very close family member, and I needed to shower. It had been, I don't know, maybe like a week and a half. And I was like, hey, I just need to take a shower and I just need to lay my body. Cause we didn't have an air mattress at first. First we just had blankets. Then we had a bunch of pillows on top of the blankets. And then eventually we got an air mattress that was always flat. And this whole time, my daughter, let me pause real quick because I have my oldest daughter. Immediately when we moved out of the home, I sent my daughter and this is the first time I've always had my children with me. I sent her with my mother, and my mother, again, God bless her, very grateful, took her for me. But I would still see my daughter a lot, as often as I could. But I was also homeless. So, we'd pick her up, take her to the park, try to go to, little fast food spot,
it's like,
Burger King.
It's like, hear me, hon, let's let me pick you up for the day. We're going to go to my house.
Exactly. But I don't have one. So we're going to go. So, I spend a lot of time outside. I go to the park a lot in the nature, and it's all connected to that. I spend a lot of time at the library, all connected to trying to access space. That's also when I found love for the library, because clean bathrooms and, Wi-Fi and a chair. But anyway, so back to the shower. I was like, hey, I just need to lay my body down on a comfortable surface. My back is really hurting, and I was just always in pain because I was profusely regurgitating. And I needed a shower, and my family member was like, yeah, but make sure it's only an hour, or make sure you don't stay more than a few hours or something like that. And that shit gutted me. I felt like a dog, and this is supposed to be somebody this is your parent, you know what I mean? Right. And so it's and I was like, forget it. So calling up close friends and saying can I just come take a shower? Hey, my Jeff has a job interview, or he needs to go to work, and it's been a few days. And so the last time I actually shaved my head wasn't because I wanted to. I don't know if people know that or not, but I keep my hair low. It's I'm growing it out right now. It's probably at a 3 right now. I keep it at a 1, keep it tight on the sides, skin fade in the back, on sides a taper. I like it like that. I feel most myself. But I had grown my hair out, and I loved it. It was so beautiful. But then I was homeless again, the second time, which we'll get into. And, the twins and my daughter, they were going to school all day, and then I'd pick them up, take them to the park, and drop them off at my mom's, and she would feed them and put them to bed, shower them, put them to bed. I'd wake up in the morning and take them back to school. So I was staying in the car. I was living in the car. And, I found a park right there in Chula Vista, the Chula Vista Library. They have a big park, and a lot of unhoused people park, along the side of the roads of the park and the library. And so I was staying there for a few weeks, and my hair, I hadn't showered in 2 weeks, literally 17 days. By the way, people, I'm not I'm not dirty. I baby wipe. If you know me, that's why it's such a mind fuck, because if you saw me, you would never know it, because I baby wipe, I lotion, I moisturize. I tried to make myself look presentable. My mom,
Right.
again, we were always in the struggle. She always taught me, like, you don't have to look like, you don't got to look like what you're going through. And so, my hair had gotten, I have very curly hair.
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there. I have a.
Didn't even notice.
No. No, it's funny because you just said you're a clean person, right?
Yeah.
The radio show that I listen to, it's out here in LA County. It's called Valentine in the Morning. And little quick history. They are the ones. Yeah. This radio show are the people that gave me the nickname Flat Tire Andy. And I explain all that in episode 5, guys. And so he says that his mom would never let him leave the house with dirty underwear. With dirty underwear, or that she didn't like to leave the house with dirty underwear. And the reason the reason for that is that you never know when there'll be an accident and you'll end up in the emergency room with dirty underwear.
So my mom always said, as a woman, like once I got chi-chis, that never to leave the house without a bra. And I always give my best friend Morgan a hard time because she never has shoes on. She always has chanclas or slippers or slides or whatever. And I'm like, girl, now that she's got 2 kids, I'm like, bitch, you need to be ready. I'm like, you need never leave the house without clean chonies, a bra, at least a sports bra, and some tinny shoes. Because you just never know. And
the same thing goes with like basketball shorts. I always walked out in public. I was always out in public in basketball shorts and a tank top, whatever. As I got older, obviously my mentality changed, and now I try not to wear basketball shorts. And when I do wear basketball shorts out in public, I feel uncomfortable. Yeah. It's okay wearing, like, I'm okay with jean shorts because they're not basketball shorts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's yeah. My kids,
Gucci daddy shorts.
Yeah. My kids, one day when I dropped them off, this is a while back, I dropped them off with the visit with their mom. My son was like, "Hey, mom, dad doesn't let us come out in public in basketball shorts." Because that's all she would buy them. Like, she would say, "I want to buy them clothes," and she would buy them like a $3 shirt at Walmart, and then like basketball shorts.
Yeah.
So one day she asked, "Where's the clothes I bought them?" I'm like, "That's like hangout clothes at home." And she's like, "Well, I paid for that clothes." I'm like, "Okay, I know you do it, and they use it. Trust me." Yeah. I do not feel comfortable them walking out of the house in basketball shorts. And then she's like, "Yeah, well, you used to do it all the time." I know, but then I grew up. But then, what's that supposed to mean? And she looked like a fucking chunti. She looked like, I'm like, "You went and delivered clothes? Like, you went and delivered food dressed like this?" And I said it. And I hate to judge her, but I mean, like, how, if I was somebody buying food from DoorDash or something, I would not feel comfortable eating that food the way that the delivery servicer, or whatever you want to call it, the individual dressed like the way they were. And I was like, no, I wouldn't eat food from you. I'm sorry. So that's why I told her, like, pretty much a reminder, the way she's dressed is the reason why I don't allow my kids to walk out in basketball shorts. Same thing with me, because of the way I grew up, I don't like that, you have to, like you said, you have to present yourself. You have to be you. Yeah. And like my father-in-law, he never allowed his kids, so my in-laws, my wife's siblings, to walk out in public in pajama pants, nothing. She goes, "Oh no." Him being the biggest chunti I know would not allow his kids to walk out looking like chuntis.
Wow.
And again, chuntis, for those of you that don't know, chuntis is like kind of like the Mexican version of a ghetto. So
or like looking unkept, right? Yeah. Like looking, you just rolled out. And I'm the same way. Like, that's, if you will never catch me looking polished and my kids looking busted. Yeah. If at minimum the kids are looking good, I'm looking choo-choo, like we just said. I'm looking busted. Because like, something's got to get. But I think that's also just like, I love that, like, as a man, that you're teaching and you taught your sons that, like, hey, like, when we go out of the house, like, and not even in the way of like not looking ghetto, not looking this, but like having self-respect. Like, hey, have a little respect for yourself because you're stepping out into the world. This is how you're presenting yourself. You never know who you're going to meet, what opportunities may arise.
Yeah.
And, have look the part, so.
Officer Ricky, people that know Officer Ricky on here, he's been on the podcast and he said what happened to his son, so I can kind of touch on it a little bit.
Okay.
So
yeah,
they told us they're gonna have a mass dedicated to our son that just passed away at this church. Can you guys just bring light colors? I don't want you guys to wear like typical black, right?
Oh,
wear
just
bright
colorful
colors. So the only shirt that I had that was a bright color was a kind of like a polo, and it had to go with shorts. It had to. That shirt has to go with shorts. And so I put on my shorts. I put on this polo.
Yeah.
And we're all wearing bright like teal colors and stuff. Like we look like fucking Easter eggs. Okay.
Skittles.
Motherfucking Ricky. Fucking Ricky was dressed in this fucking suit and tie. I was like, motherfucker.
The badge.
Yeah, motherfucker, do you know how uncomfortable I feel right now? And you're wearing a fucking suit and tie? No, mames.
Officer Ricky, why you gotta show out like that?
Right? He was like, well, I wanted to see how many fools listened to what we had to say. I'm a mother. Wow, Rick. Wow.
Oh
so,
goodness.
Yeah, F you, Ricky.
That's
you still owe me 2 episodes. But yes, I'm sorry. Continue.
Come back, Ricky. I'm like Officer Ricky. I'd rather be outdressed than underdressed, But so I think that so I couldn't wash my hair. It was super curly and it was getting really knotted and I hit up Carl, who is the producer, my friend at the podcast, and I was like, he's a barber and he's cut my hair before. I was like, I think he's cut it before maybe. I was like, hey, can you shave my head? And he was like, for real? I was like, yeah. I was like, it's gotta go. And can I take a shower?
Yeah.
And so before our episode, where the episode where you see me, come out and I had curly hair the week before and now that was the same day. We recorded that day. I shaved my head. I took a shower and we recorded. So, you never know what people are going through. But essentially after experiencing all of that, sleeping in the tent, at the beaches, sleeping in the car, doing the campsites, doing, the motels and, receiving people's generosity too. I was getting more and more pregnant. And so therefore I was getting more and more terrified about what was going to happen to my twins. I'm like, where am I going to take these babies? I can't take the babies back to the tent.
Right.
What the hell? And so I started looking into, and that little resource voucher I told you about?
Yeah.
They give you only, I can't remember if it was maybe
2 weeks,
60 days. Not
to use it, right? To use
30, it. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Trust me, my mom used those shits all the fucking time. It's again, the reason why I keep an Excel sheet in my kitchen with all my bills is because of shit like that. Shit like that.
Yeah, and then there's also I think just sometimes it's not a matter of, because I worked at the bank, I'm very, meticulous as well. I was a banker. I've done financial literacy. I've taught financial literacy. I used to teach a program on how to afford college with parent help without it, etc. Sometimes it's just a lack, or you have so much to provide for and you're just the one person. And so it's Peter robbing Paul and it's penny pinching and we're barely scraping by as it is. And now the car fucked up because I haven't been able to afford an oil change because I can barely pay the internet because, you know what I mean? And so I think that also just being mindful of not everyone's journey is different. You know your mom's, so what you went through with her and how that ended up, why you guys ended up. But there's also another side of things where people they really are trying their best.
Yeah.
And it's just not enough, and for me, that not being enough and then having lack of familiar or family support, and so all of that puts you're back against the wall. like when you're trying to hustle and you're pinching every penny and
Yeah.
you still can't make it. For my mom and for me, for my life, for my journey of how when, being homeless and trying to pick up all the jobs or trying to take care of the kids and trying to catch up on the bills and one thing after another and not,
Yeah.
speaking for me.
Right. I just had a train of thought and I just lost it, so it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore.
I'm sorry.
No, it was me because I twisted the word that you had said. That's why I think you sounded. I think you were confused with what I'm trying to get at, because I completely forgot the word. I'm telling you, this fucking my brain.
Yeah,
right now,
you got that head cold.
You know what? Honestly, right now, my mind is just for the last 10 minutes. It's just been saying, "Go use the restroom. Go use the restroom. Go use the restroom."
Go!
So really quick, because I've been drinking water. I drank like 3 teas. I drink water already.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a quick little break, and then we'll be right back.
Okay, I'll go too.
Okay.
Need auto insurance or an SR22? Like now, SolarX Insurance gets you covered fast. No license, no problem. We speak your language, shop the best rates, and get you back on the road today. Call 877-736-4719. That's 877-736-4719. Visit slxinsurance.com or call now 877-736-4719. Quick, easy, done. Solar X Insurance. Drive with confidence.
And we are back. Yeah, I have been drinking too much water that I needed to go. I needed to go. But yeah, you were still talking about. Fluid. I'm sorry. What happened?
No, I said you need the fluids.
Oh yeah. But we were still on homelessness, and I think you were trying to transition into like a shelter or something.
Yeah. So I just got to that point where I was becoming more and more pregnant, and I needed to find somewhere to live. Tried to find family shelters, and just wasn't able to. So at that point, I had to find a shelter for myself. I ended up finding a maternity home, which shelters women that are pregnant or have children. And so I was lucky enough to get into that housing, but it was a very abusive and toxic place. But I met two of my closest friends there that were staff members, and they helped me, and I had my twins there. So I was there for about 6 months. I knew that from June to December, and my goal was always to be in a home while for Christmas. So at that point in time, I was severely depressed. I've suffered with depression my whole life, and then I just had these twins, and technically I was still, I was housed, but I was still homeless. And it was like, I had never been institutionalized. I've never had that kind of level of security or loss of autonomy. And so we had cameras in every single room. We had curfews, and we had people that were just not running things really well. And so they would watch us and overstep. And one time the director accidentally sent me a screenshot of one of the mothers pregnant laying on the couch talking shit. Like, I told her not to lay down anymore. Look how disgusting she looks. Nobody wants to see that.
Wow.
So it's like, well, and then immediately texted me, because I would always tell her, you look at the cameras, you stare at us, you listen to our conversations. And she didn't because a lot of women, a lot of people, not a lot, but when people are in house, sometimes your upbringing, your circumstance can harden you, and you've been institutionalized, you've turned to drugs and whatever. I'm not judging these people. I was lucky. I'm a very articulate person, and so she wasn't used to that. And so, that situation was that situation. Eventually, me and my Jeff was hustling the whole time. I had a GoFundMe, and we were able to get enough. We had $5,000 between the GoFundMe and what he had. The GoFundMe helped float me while I was in the maternity house, for the kids. A lot of people blessed us there as well. People I knew my whole life would send me things for the twins. The twins, quite honestly, were literally provided for through community.
Nice.
Everything they needed
Nice.
was provided by everybody else. So we move out, we are in there, and, I'm postpartum depression. The relation was struggling. We're still struggling financially because, although we got into this place, we don't have, $5,000 literally to move in, deposit, and to like rent a truck to get our stuff from him. And, and I'm home with the twins. I can't work yet, and so we can't afford childcare. And we were scraping by. I had my benefits stolen from me.
Oh,
and all of this perpetuated into us struggling financially already. That's the thing. Once you're homeless, the chance to keep becoming homeless is over and over again because it's very hard to restabilize financially. It's hard to build as you're recovering, which only added to the stress of our household, which only added to the mental health struggles that I went through and, the domestic violence. And so, why I stayed, there's a few reasons, but one of the fundamental reasons why I stayed within my marriage for so long was we were codependent. We were financially codependent on one another. My Jeff never withheld money from me. I'll say, might have beat my ass, but he never would financially abuse or control me. So we were financially dependent, but he could just leave by himself. I had a dog and 3 kids, and so I was like, where am I going to go?
right.
And so when I decided, when he left me, when he left, that was it. I knew we have to vacate this apartment. We got to get out of here. I don't have anywhere to go. So, we moved out and he left me in November. I think we were out of the apartment in January. And I was homeless again.
Oh shit.
But this time, and your worst fear coming to fruition all over again. You think I don't think people understand, being homeless isn't just inconvenient because you can't shower, because you can't go to the bathroom, because it's fucking hot or it's cold or it's dangerous. My dog, her birthday's today. My dog literally was how I survived. I had men come bang on my window. I've had men try to grab and open my door. Come knock on my tent. If it wasn't for my pit, who knows what would have happened. That's why unhoused women, and I'm sure men, but unhoused women are sexually victimized and assaulted and raped on a regular basis, which is also why they often have a dog or they choose a companion to stay with. But, so going into homelessness the second time, while I was already podcasting and, vocally sharing my life, and, that was a whole different kind of mindfuck, because then it felt like I was carrying the secret. I was also carrying the secret that I was being abused. I was in an abusive marriage. And so, and then it really messed with my mental health because I felt like such a fraud, and I was living a double life almost, and so when we ended up homeless the second time, we were blessed by different churches, different community members. We lived in different motels. The kids would go with my mom. I'd go back into the car and vice versa, and round, and tried to find the resources. Had that moment where I thought I was going to have a place to live in exchange for work, and that ended up not working out. And then Florida happened. So, and I'm still I can lose this at any moment, I understand now why people send, they go when you move first by yourself and then you send for your family. I deeply understand that, because trying to set up our lives, especially financially, while trying to care for my 3 children, especially my toddlers that are autistic, my son being level 3 autistic and nonverbal, it feels like impossible. I know it's not,
and then navigating a new place where I don't know how to go through their different healthcare systems, their schooling systems. I'm trying to figure this all out. Like, nobody's here. It's just me and my daughter and the kids. Like, I'm already, like, in full transparency, I'm already behind. I'm already like, oh shit, I could lose it all again.
Yeah.
And that instability, it's like trying to climb up a 10-foot pole. I mean, a 10-foot hole, and so I'm still in the thick of it. Like, I think that I've learned how to, and why I'm okay talking about it is because, and my most important, like, message for coming on the podcast is, like, I need, like, as I was saying in the beginning, just, like, it's easy to say, you're going to get through it when you're already on the other end of it, where it's like, okay, like, I'm really going through it still, but I do have hope, that, and I'm due diligence that I can find it, but it's a perfect storm for me to lose it all again. And I'm like, oh shit, so homelessness, I feel like it's, and I'm not proclaiming this, I'm not manifesting this, hell no, fuck homelessness, Lord Jesus, keep that shit away from me. But it always feels like it's just on my heel, and it always has been my entire life. I'm just always trying to escape it.
So going through, so going through this again, all over again, we're talking homelessness again. How's your mental health at this point?
Then or now?
Well, then.
Yeah. Oh, it was terrible. I mean, I was also postpartum. So a lot of times postpartum depression, maternal health, it's not always loud, or it can be confused with like sleep deprivation and, just hormone changes, or like, there's some deep things. And so, I've always, for many years now, I've struggled with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and self-harming thoughts. That's my big thing, is like not killing myself. Like, that's, making sure that my mental health recovery, since I was 28, I had the burnout. I was seriously considering killing myself. 2020, where I had the loss of somebody important to me, a child, due to a domestic violence relationship. And that sent me over. So I ended up,
yours or somebody else?
Somebody else.
Okay.
One of my best friends and a roommate of mine. We were living together, and we were trying to get her out of that situation. Her and I had a falling out. She got back with him a few months later. He was watching the child. The child found a gun inside of the car.
Oh my God.
And he inflicted a wound. We should do maybe a trigger warning on that. And I had a lot of guilt, and I still do. Like, I know people say, like, I'll just never forgive myself for that situation. I was trying to protect her privacy and also help her, like, navigate. We were so close, man. She got the restraining order. We were going to custody. We were so close. But I want to say this, as someone who has helped and navigated a lot of women through domestic violence, and men, including, and my mother and myself, like, and trying to, if you're that person that you're the only person who knows, or there's only a few people who know, it is very, very important to know when you need to bring other people in. And so I was starting to coach her and getting, like, we need to tell your boss. In case something happens, you need to leave suddenly. Like, you really should tell, your parents. So that way, if you need somewhere to stay, because things were escalating. And sometimes I don't fuck with the law like that. I deeply respect people who are service members, whether a cop or this or that. But I'm also, I'll be like, hold up, I'm not quick to call on the law or get the government's involved with family matters. That also might be due to trauma. Family business stays inside the house. But that's what I'm speaking to. That mentality, that trauma training, as I call it, tells you big, scary, fucked up things are happening. We got to keep it a secret, because, and especially if, you're the confidant, No. Sometimes shit is bigger than you, and you need to start really involving people, even when that means doing what somebody doesn't want you to do. Maybe when that means like doing the really, really hard thing. And I didn't. And so that haunts me. But that's what broke me, essentially. And so my mom came to where I was living and knocked on the door, and I just knew. I was like, who is it? Like, tell me. And she told me. And a few weeks later, I checked myself into a crisis center. And I was there for a month. And I probably should have stayed longer. But that's a whole nother podcast, Andy. That experience saved my life. I learned I was stabilized there. You know, you sleep there. You have a psychiatrist, a therapist. You have nurses. They're administering your meds, and stabilizing you, you know, to the point where you're safe enough to not harm yourself. And so, but there was also, I really saw the cycle of mental health and drug addiction or self-coping. And it's a vicious one. And that's why I left kind of early, because to be quite honest, there was a lot of people addicted to meth. And when we would be in our group therapy sessions and they would talk about the way meth made them feel, I was like, and having like that peace, I was like, oh no, I'm not into drugs like that, but all of this pain I'm going through, I might do meth. Like, no, I would never. And you know, that's a very dangerous drug. And so from then on, you know, it was, I mean, I didn't think I'd make it to 30. I didn't think I'd make it to 32, 33, you know, and it was always just kind of like, let's get my daughter to 18. Let's get, you know, and then I have the twins. I'm like, you know, I often think that like God gave me my children to ground me, to literally not ground me, like keep me grounded and calm, like no, to literally keep me on the planet, because also my children don't have anybody else really. I don't have people like that, so my children don't. You know, their fathers unfortunately haven't been able to be providers. You know, I know their fathers love them, and I will say like, I don't speak badly about their fathers in front of them, and we have our issues. They have their things with me. I have their things with them. They're not completely terrible people. And I respect them in the ways that I can respect them. And I don't in the ways that I don't, you know, so right. For that. But just like, understanding that those urges, and that's why going to that crisis center saved my life, because I didn't understand that feelings aren't facts, that you can think something and it can't be true. You know, I didn't know what was happening inside of me. I didn't have the language to name it. I didn't have any coping mechanism. In fact, my coping mechanism, which is why I'm able to understand my intrusive thoughts, is to kill myself. A lot of people that commit suicide, it's not that they don't want to live. Let me tell you something. We want to live, baby. Like, it's that we want to live without the pain and the suffering. And you get to that point, let me finish this now. You get to that point where it's like, that hopelessness, where it feels like, you know, like right now, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm already behind on my rent. I have nobody here. I had to stop working because my son eloped and nobody can take care of him. How am I going to pay? Like, and you start feeling like that back is against the wall, and this is the only option. And for me, because my children are here and my children don't have fathers or grandparents or aunts or uncles or cousins that could take them if I left, even when I'm at my closest, I'm like, well, what about my kids? Like, and that's not to say, because sometimes that the pain is still too hard I want to say this for people who have lost somebody to suicide, whether it was your mother, your father, your children, your sibling. The love that they have for you, how much they love you, is not a reflection of them choosing to take their life. It's a reflection of them living with so much pain and not maybe having the ability to say that and not due to anyone else's fault, but just that pain overcoming. So I just, it's important that people know, like, it's not a measurement of love because they left, it's a measurement of pain.
Yeah, we went down to my hometown a couple of days ago because of a funeral we went to, and we stopped. We went after it was done. We went to go pick up my nephew, and we took him to McDonald's. And it was at the McDonald's that it was at the intersection. For those of you that know Oxnard, the intersection on Rose and Fifth Street. And no joke, when that sound of the train, when it made the sound, the train's coming, I literally, I jumped. I got
chills.
And my son, my youngest one, said, "Dad, you okay?" And I looked at him, and I never showed them before, but that was the location where I almost jumped in front of a train. And like they see the flash before your eyes part, I saw myself walking towards the train, but like kind of like in the movie Ghost, where they see themselves walking away or they passed away. That's what I kind of saw. Like, I saw me walking towards the train tracks.
Yeah, and those are like, flashbacks, and they're also, those like intrusive thoughts. And so that for me, like, was the beginning of my mental health journey, and realizing, getting my diagnoses and understanding what was happening in my brain, and understanding that this is not quote unquote normal, and beginning therapy, beginning, all kinds of different mental health medications, and not wanting to take them, and taking them on and off, and finding ones that made me either more suicidal or too tired to function. It's not a one quick fix. You still gotta, have faith, and you gotta go outside. And for me, like, it's been almost 8 years since I've been in my mental health recovery. I had my official burnout was when I was 28 years old. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, I want to kill myself. And I told one of my best friends, and she was like, "You're unwell. You're unwell. You need," and she taught me how to take a leave of absence. And I ended up moving, and that's why I moved in with my friend, and then, the DV, and then her son. And then I came back to San Diego, and then a few months later, he passed away. And then I, got into therapy. And so, went to the crisis center and then started therapy. But it's been interesting because, why I really wanted to come on this podcast, because I really respect everyone who comes, and you providing a platform, and the people that are your guests that are brave enough and vulnerable enough to share their stories, is because as you're listening, I've had a lot of traumatic experiences, not only in my entire life, but in the last few years. I talked to my friend Kinzo, and he was like, the last 5 years you've been homeless, you moved to San Diego, you moved to Fresno, you moved back, you got married, you got divorced, and he's like, girl. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is all an accumulation of not properly healing the trauma, not recognizing the patterns, and then even knowing the patterns, because I've had enough therapy and done enough research that I can conceptualize, intellectualize, I can do certain things. But where I'm at in my journey, and if anyone else, I really want, if you feel like you've hit a wall, or if you feel like you're like, okay, I know better, why am I still not doing better? Or I am handling situations better, why do I still feel this way? Or, I'm still going through my depressive episodes, which I do. I say that I'm like a functioning, like a functioning alcoholic. I'm a functioning depressed person. Like I say life is not organic for me. And it takes effort. I'm like, okay, Jasenia, today, you got it. You got to keep pushing through, you know what you have to do. So this morning, I told you the last 2 weeks have been a shit show. So I was like, and I was falling into a depressive episode because I'm like, how am I going to pay the rent? You start freaking out. And in my mind, because I learned, now my mind is telling me, I want, kill yourself. The intrusive thoughts are coming in because the panic is coming in, because the stress is coming in, because I don't know how I'm going to fix this is coming in. Where normally I can lean into that. And I have. And I still have moments. And that turns into months and months of deep depression where I'm, battling so many inner thoughts, and then I put the mask on and I'm coming out. And that's why I said today too, like, I was like, last week I was still me, but more playful. I was like, today I need to take off my mask and lay this shit here, Andy, with you, and leave it and like start moving forward and not so much dwelling in all this trauma. It takes time to heal. It's not a sweep it under the rug, because it will keep coming out and it will create a bigger mess and a stain and damage. And so I think that like when you're at that point and you feel like, why haven't I had my breakthrough? It's because like you're still not doing things differently. You know better, but you still haven't maybe quite found the support system, or you still haven't started to integrate, to apply, or you just put a Band-Aid on it. So yeah, like me, great. I've become a better communicator, big time. I'm learning how to handle my reactions better. I'm less confrontational. There's all these things I picked up, but there's still my nervous system, like I was talking about in the first part. There's still, I started dating again recently. And I was saying those mirrors and being in those relationships, I'm like, oh, damn. Like, and you have to put yourself into relationships, trying to reconnect with my family, trying to build bridges, and I'm like, oh, I thought I was a little bit better, but like, I still have a lot of healing to do. And so I just want like if you feel like you're not hitting the breakthrough, that's when it's time to stop and like take a look in, and so for me, like I felt today, this weekend, I worked all day yesterday. I was exhausted. I'm running on fumes. I was like, I gotta and potting, I love potting. So it's very therapeutic, but I was like, I gotta get my mindset, because I also I'm aware of what I say too can be powerful. And so if you're giving me this opportunity, which I consider a blessing, like I want to make sure that I'm using it well. And so making sure. So instead of, just going downward in a deep scroll of depression, going outside. Okay, let's get out into nature. What I tell you, I love the nature. Let me go run. I have all this energy. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm mad. Like, let me run it out. Let me sweat it out. Let me go do my meditation, my yoga, and applying those things. They're not going to fix everything, but what they do is they put me in a more calm state of mind, which then allows me to say, oh, Jasenia, you don't really want to commit suicide. You're just very overwhelmed and stressed. And maybe you need a little support. Like maybe you should call your best friend and say, I'm struggling, or maybe go outside, or, I book an emergency appointment with a therapist, like go onto a hotline. And so, my point is like, for me, I'm still in my mental health recovery. I still have battles with depression, and I still have the triggers and the flashbacks from the PTSD, and but I'm determined to not let these things control me anymore. I'm determined not to name them as much, and I'm determined to start moving away from that story. You know what I mean? But that's not to say we can just negate it. But at some point, even how you speak needs to start changing. I've been speaking about sad, fucked up shit for a long time. Guess what, Andy? My life is still pretty sad and fucked up. So, the power of the tongue is powerful.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, how can we speak about trauma in a way where I'm not trauma dumping anymore, but instead maybe I'm providing hope that I always need myself.
Exactly. I like I said, I went back to that day, and like you said earlier about like snapping out of it or something. I'm sorry, I've been taking notes and everything. So, and like I said, I still feel that shit.
I know.
I just went back to that day, and it's like you said, for example, I'm having a brain fart, but the point is that I realized that day that my kids need me more than I need myself. And if I'll go through with it, I'm just being selfish. And like I said, to this day, I recall I felt something tug on my sweater, and then nothing was there. So I just being in that town was just trigger after trigger after trigger. We took my nephew to the park, and even just to the park that we chose, I was like back and forth memories, and like, oh my God, I hate it here.
Like the bathrooms at the parks, it's your environment, and again, you don't know until you put yourself in that, either that person or that place or that thing, and then it's like, oh, but that's where that's that pivotal moment where it's like, okay, there's something still unsettled here. Like, do I just shove it back down, or just think, oh, that was just a moment? Or do I, like, now that I spend a little bit more time, like, seeing maybe where I need to process that more? And then, and again, I like to be, for me, I like to be not careful, but, with my words. And for some people, we all have to say whatever's going to work for us. So for some people, if it's like, well, I'm not going to be selfish and kill myself, if that's what gets you through it, it does. But also for those people who are the survivors, the people who have killed themselves, not choosing to look at it in that way, that my parent or my sibling or my best friend were selfish, and that's why they left me. That's why they killed themselves. Whereas having that mindset of like, no, they were really sick, and that's why they left. But I have some days I'm gentle with myself, and it's like, okay, Jacinia, like, all right, girl, you got it. And other days I'm like, look at here, you little pussy ass bitch. Mama didn't raise no bitch. Get up, get your shit going. You know you're destined for greatness. Like, or sometimes it's my ego. It's like, okay, y'all counted me out. Y'all thought I was down. Guess what? I'm down 20 times. I'm back up 25 times, motherfuckers. Like, I might be down. I ain't never out. Even though like my brain be trying to take me out. It's a different kind of life to live when you're battling your brain.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole, while navigating all of the parts of life, which, the biggest thing, which I really wanted to lead into, which is a very big part of my life, is my twins having autism. And so, and understanding like, how neurodivergency, how I'm also neurodivergent, and how that also plays into people that are neurodivergent. If you're unfamiliar with neurodivergency, it's on the spectrum of autism, ADHD. And so, which I know that is like a trigger word right now, or it's, we're seeing it everywhere, and there's the damn town hall lawsuits, and and everybody thinks it's just like depression, which that's why it's hard, because as someone who really struggles with chronic depression, severe mental health illness, and who really has real ass autistic children, like, I know it seems like everybody has depression, everybody's autistic, everybody's ADHD, because people use those words just to describe symptoms that are similar, that, that most people go through, or you might experience, being forgetful and being awkward or whatever. And they just like to slap that little name on there. And then it takes away from the severity of when it really does impact your life. And so, I never, when I was pregnant with Jaylee, I was working with people, with the disabled community. I was working with adults and children, and I was scared. I was pregnant, and I was scared. And I used to think like, I wonder if God is going to give me, like, I'm telling you, my brain is weird, but I used to think like, oh, you love working with this community. Like, you think that, you're making this impact, whatever, and you're being changed. And I used to think like, what if God's going to test me when I was pregnant with my first and give me a child with a disability? And I used to pray like, and then after I had my daughter and, everything was fine, I never thought of that again. And so then when I had the twins, which I had them a month early, like 5 weeks early, I had an emergency C-section. They stopped growing. We had to spend a week in the hospital, 3 and 4 pounds, et cetera, et cetera. Like, definitely experienced different health issues with them being preemie. I still never imagined, end up having children that have a disability. And so I worked with children, and I worked with children with disabilities. So, I had an inclination. I was probably able to see it faster than maybe most people. Also, in the Black and brown communities, they don't really want to acknowledge autism. It's just like, everybody has that cousin, or like, leave that baby alone. They just like that, and so, which is beautiful in a way that like we're just accepting them, but then can also be, dangerous in a way, because now we're not getting them the services they need. And so I thought both of my twins are autistic, but my Magic is level 2, and she is emotionally, and she has like emotional dysregulation. And then that's where her autism shows up the most. Whereas my son and my children have been diagnosed by 3 different official autism diagnoses, including Kaiser Permanente, from a 4-hour interview assessment from a neurologist. So I just want to I just say that so we understand that I'm not just speaking off of like what I think, but I've gone through the system. And so I still didn't I thought Magic was going to be autistic, and then they both ended up autistic, and then my son never started talking, which is hard. I don't know if any parents are listening, but could you imagine you were having a conversation with your child? Could you imagine the baby that you love so much, never being able to say I love you, or talk about, so that that's hard. My son, they're giving me a plethora of diagnoses for him of speech delay and cognitive delay, and telling me that he's a 1.5 years delayed cognitively. And I'm like, no, you're tripping. No, he's not. So trying to understand, what are they seeing? What am I seeing? And now learning. Now I'm in this world. Now I have 2 autistic children, one with, he's considered a one-on-one needs, because which elopement is some autistic people experiences, where they are sensory seeking. They're overwhelmed. They're trying to get away. They're curious. They're trying to explore. Maybe they're bored. And my son is a big eloper, and he, climbs into the cabinets, and he flushes all my jewelry down the toilet. And it's I don't show the damage and the destruction that my son really does, because, I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that. I share a lot of my own personal struggles online. I work online as an online host. I podcast. So I do live publicly, and I do share a little bit with my kids and the autism struggle, but I'm just not there yet. But I say all that to say that, I was not, and I'm really learning what it means to have a one-on-one autistic child, and then also another autistic child, and the kind of support and safety measures and destruction that comes with that, and so for me, where that's accumulated to is that since I've been in Florida, my son has eloped twice, and I haven't shared this story publicly because I had to process it, but twice. One time when I was at work, and a family member was watching him. He left the backyard and ended up down the street, and the police were called, and nobody told me. And I went home that night. Nobody told me anything happened, including my oldest, which that was a whole other conversation. And so I got a call from an officer the next day telling me what had happened. And so I'm it's my kid's out the house. The first thing I asked was am I going to be under
what's going to happen? Am I in trouble? Like, are you coming to get my kid? Am I in trouble?
Yeah.
And then about maybe almost 6 weeks ago, I woke up in the morning. There had been a winter storm and my garage door had fallen off. And I woke up in the morning early, and what's the first thing as a parent you do? You go check on all your kids, and sometimes my kids sleep in my bed, their sister's bed, their own beds, they could be anywhere. I go and I can't find my son. It's like 7:38 in the morning and I can't find my son. I'm looking everywhere in my house and he hides. He likes to hide. And so I'm going in the hiding spaces. The whole house is shut. Every door is shut. I'm like, what's happening? I wake up my oldest. I'm like, your brother's not here, because literally our number one mission in life, my life.
Need auto insurance or an SR22? Like now, SolarX Insurance gets you covered fast. No license, no problem. We speak your language, shop the best rates, and get you back on the road today. Call 877-736-4719. That's 877-736-4719. Visit slxinsurance.com or call now 877-736-4719. Quick, easy, done. SolarX Insurance. Drive with confidence.
Now is about keeping my son safe. That is the thing. And then all of life revolves around that. Working, even making money. Like, where I go, whose house we go to, what events we go to, what parks we go to, what people around. Can we eat out? Like, every single decision that I make starts with, is my son going to be safe, or what is going to happen? Am I going to, is it a risk? It's always a risk assessed. How much are they going to be overstimulated? Is it going to be a fit? And so when going back, so when I woke up in the morning and didn't see my son, and I wake up my oldest and we're, frantic, and then it hit. It was that second of like, my son is gone. He's not here. And I had to call the police. And I will say, like, shout out to Pasco County police officers. They were at my doors within minutes. So quick. I was still on the phone with dispatch, losing my shit, by the way. Like, I couldn't breathe. I was throwing up. I was trying to calm myself just enough to be able to, give information. They're asking me, what was he wearing? I couldn't remember. And then I thought, my son loves to take off all his clothes. It's part of his sensory. He loves to be naked. I'm thinking, oh my God, is my son, he's probably naked, not even a diaper on, And so they come, 4 or 5 cops, every angle. Once they're there, I start running out. And from down the street, there was an officer that came, because they came from like literally 3 different angles. Kind of my house is in the middle of that. And they're like, wait, I think I see him. Is he wearing blue and green? I'm like, I can't see him. I'm like, yes. I kid you not. I ran so fast, but it felt like I was in the Matrix. It felt like there was quicksand, or like something was literally holding my legs down. And, it's me. It was like a movie. It's me and like 5 officers just running down the street. And, obviously it was him, and I grabbed him and had a breakdown. And then, now it's time. Now we got to deal with the law, and God bless them. And so what happened and what we gathered is he went through the doggy door, which I have covered 100 times. It's covered now. And he was able to get through the garage door, because that door had just fallen down from the storm. And he climbed. I have like wood against one side of my fence. He went to the other side and he climbed the chain link fence, which is probably, at least 4.5 feet, and he dipped. And so that turned into a bigger thing, because now my son has eloped twice. And so they had to open a investigation on me to see
if I was taking all of the necessary precautions in order to keep my son safe, that I was doing my due diligence, which means that, DCF, which is Florida's Family Child Services, came knocking on my door the next day. And I had no idea they were coming. And cause I had called, I don't know why, but I just didn't. And, I was terrified. I had a woman coming on my door saying, I need to see your children. I was like, what? I'm like, I'm not saying to come in my house. I'm like, you got a warrant? I'm like, who are you? What are you saying? She's like, well, I just have to see the kids or, if I see the kids, I can leave. If I don't see the kids, then I have to come back. And I'm like, okay, I held them up to the window and we were able to get through the conversation, but essentially, and this experience has been a blessing in disguise, honestly, because it provided me with a lot of resources and it made me level up my game even more. So I had to be in compliance. I had to prove that I'm doing all of my due diligence. Luckily I am a ladies' man. So there's a man lady. So there's always a man within my reach that can help me out. And I had somebody come over and we installed extra locks, like chain locks on every single door. We drilled in because we did hammer a piece of wood and my son is Hulk strong. There is such thing as called autism strength. We literally power drilled a wood to cover the doggy door. My sister bought me Ring cameras. I have a Ring camera in my living room. I have a Ring camera in front of my front door. The officer told me to start washing my son's clothing with, and I'm saying this because if your child is an eloper and they're autistic, please take these precautions so you never wake up with your child not in their bed, and so the cameras are super beneficial. Being able to have all those extra locks, even on the bathroom, he's flooded the bathroom on, and being able to show those photos. I added extra, the ones that you can't even twist over the doorknob. And so just having, and then I thought about it like this, I have other people looking out for my son. They added him to the, disabled, list. There's a list where you can register. Again, if you have a child who is autistic and elopes, please look into this in your county. Most counties have this. They have a registration where you can register your adult or child. And if they go lost or they go missing, they're in this system. They let me know about a GPS that I can have on him and pay a subscription, and it's directly connected to the police station. The only thing is my son won't keep it on, but that's an option as well. They told me to wash his clothes separately in his own type of detergent. So if the dogs ever have to find him, they're able to keep the scent.
That's
pick
smart.
up the scent. They also told me, it was a lot because I was like, oh, you're literally preparing me to either find my son or find a body. But this is real. And, this is why, I don't speak publicly about the reality of what I'm really going through with my son because it feels personal for him. But it's important that my son's only 3.5. I'm still new. I'm new to the game. And so I'm like, if I can help other people prevent this, then I would love to. And so, also taking your child's clothes off and putting it in a little zippy bag every night in the morning. After, so that way they have a fresh scent. So these are just precautionary things, and I'm going through this investigation as we speak. And, I had to connect to different people and I'm going through it. I had my interviews, I had to provide resources and I literally am now in the position that I have to prove to the state that I can keep my son and keep him safe. And again, very much a humble moment of well, thank you, God, for providing us this safety net and other people, but also that is not a good feeling, to say the least. You know what I mean? The heaviness of that. And then having to make that decision of, I can't work right now anymore because I started working too fast. I didn't have his care stabilized. We're still waiting for health insurance, and there's so many moving parts. And so knowing that, like, I can't work, and then going back into that instability and that fear of homelessness, like, I can't work because I need to make sure my son is safe. I tried to work. I tried to rush it. My son has now escaped twice. Police have been found twice. You can't tell me, for me, this is my belief. You can't tell me there's not a God. You can't tell me that there wasn't angels. My son is down the street. I'm not talking like next door. I'm talking like 7, 8, 10 houses. I'm talking, we live on a tiny little country neighborhood where there's not even sidewalks. You know, we're in like the White Hood, bunch of pill poppers. Like, I'm like, there's dogs, there's gators, there's water. Autistic people can be drawn to water and drown. And so, like, I'm like, no, like, 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. And so, you know, and then maintaining my mental health, you know, like going through this investigation, having to balance, like, where am I now going to find the finances, trying to double down on getting my son in like schools and therapies. And there's just not a lot of resource here in the county that I ended up in. And so it's a lot of moving parts. And I think that, like, if you're someone who's dealing with this, I would say, like, the sooner that you start to understand it, the better. If you're noticing that your child isn't making eye contact, they are walking on their tippy toes, you know, they are in a constant gaze, maybe they like to spin around or not, their speech isn't developing, you know, pay attention to those things and act on them. It's scary, or we can write it off, but the sooner you're able to recognize, the sooner you're able to start receiving services. And that just gives your child the best opportunity to live such an independent life. I wonder, and I pray every day, like, I know my son will speak. I know it. I have to. My son will speak to the level of conversation that he will be able to have. Only God knows. And God willing, he's a CEO one day. But I also mourn. I always wanted a son. And I'm mourning the kind of relationship I thought I would have with my son. I thought I would be his baseball coach. I'm very like, I just thought so many things, you know, and then also settling into the idea of, like, my son may always live with me. I may always, again, you see why God gave me my kids? He said, bitch, you thought you only had to make it to 18 and you were out? You might have one that's going to live with you your whole life, you know? And so you have to stay here.
I don't think I've asked you, but how old is your son?
Oh, yeah. So the twins, boy-girl twins, fraternal twins, they are 3.5. They'll be 4 this summer.
And he ran off? No way. It's his number one mission. That's like when I started doing park reviews, something I share online. I don't know if you've ever caught one, but I started doing park reviews because we just can't go to the park. I have to see where the fence is, where's this. I shared a video last week of my son running towards the boat dock 50 yards ahead of me. And because I was turned around with his sister for 1 second, and all you see is my son running 50 feet ahead of me running 50 feet, and my twin daughter running 50 feet, and everybody in the fucking park looking at us because I'm screaming Marvel because he is fast. Yeah. And he's getting progressively closer to where the water is. And he will jump in there. He also has no, and every autistic person is different. For my son, he just has the wham, and he has no fear. He has no sense of fear. He ain't scared of shit. I find him on top of the fridge every day. I'm like, bro, not scared. It's a little high up there. Like, and so, yeah, so exactly. They're toddlers, and there's 2 of them, and it's a lot, Andy. It's a lot. And that's why my mental health, something that
I realize now I've probably struggled with depression my whole life, but my mental health, like, and being able to deeply heal and deeply be able to move through these situations is vital, because, you know, maybe I'm still going to struggle for longer than I'd like. Maybe I'm going to lose it all again. Maybe, but I cannot lose my mind. Like, you have to prioritize as mothers, as fathers, as parents, as people, even if you don't have kids, as people, successful people, busy people, in demand people. We have to stop and really address what's going on inside of our minds and our hearts, and not in just a Band-Aid way, but in a deep way. That way, especially if you come from an upbringing of trauma, because that's where the cycle starts with one person. And they tell you that when you break the cycle, you change. And you guys look into this. When you are the cycle breaker of your family, you change the next 7 generations of your lineage. Okay? When it stopped with you, it stopped with your children, your grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren, your great-great-great-grandchildren. That is so powerful for me. Do you remember when I told you, Andy, that I come from hoes?
You did.
Okay, like, and I've already repeated the patterns. You know, I'm like, okay, I got 5 years before my daughter's out of my house. God, Lord, it better end with her. It has to end with her. And in order for it to end with her, it has to end with me. She has to see it.
Of course.
You know, and that's where I'm at. You know, my trauma does not define me. My, trauma is not an excuse for me to make bad decisions. Like, my trauma isn't a way to blame others. But the things that we go through, and again, you know, trauma isn't just a fucked up situation or a bad thing. Trauma is when something happens and it changes the chemistry of your brain. So maybe someone's mother died and it was sad and they were painful and they're heartbroken, but they're still healthy. They're still moving. They still have purpose in life. You know, they're like, and maybe not right away, but that's not a traumatic event for them. For somebody whose mother died and it changed the way that they see the world, how they react to things, how they talk, how they move in their personal relationships, that's trauma. Why one person can get in a car accident and, you know, they're fine. They don't have any anxiety. Like, they had a wreck. They recognized that was a wreck and I'm okay. That same person, that same wreck, for whatever reason, can deeply change the way that they respond in the world and the way they feel within. And so trauma is another word that we like to throw around. So I just like to make that clarification that I really have been through that have deeply changed the way that I think and feel. And now it's to survive. And now it's my job to unlearn all of the behaviors that I've had to learn to survive. It's my job now to forgive myself for all of the things I did, like walking into Walmart, grabbing a fucking tin and walking out. And part of me forgiving myself and releasing that shame is sharing it. And sharing it not for pity, not for clout, not for attention. This shit is embarrassing. Let's be real, dog. This shit's embarrassing. It's hard to live publicly and then also have what really happens to you out there. People look at you differently. People make assumptions about you. I wonder sometimes, because people know I struggle so bad with my mental health, if that will prevent me business opportunities. I'm very business minded. But for me, it's about the journey. It's about the testimony, and it's about telling people to keep living, to just keep simply living, not surviving. We do that. Surviving is just stuffing it down, letting it come back up, or numbing, living, enjoying your life, whatever that looks like in whatever moments you have. For me, living today was waking up at 5 a.m., going at 5:30, taking my ass down for a run. in a beautiful place that I love, doing some yoga, doing some meditation. And then like I'm like, okay, like, that's right. Like life is worth living, and I can find small moments of joy in the chaos,
Yeah.
So.
Well, what a difference a podcast episode, that's for sure.
I like it though. I know. It's good. It's
Yeah.
nice. This is me and all of my complexities, and
Yeah.
I love that it kind of worked out that way, that we got to see maybe my more goofy, silly,
Yeah.
playful.
I got a couple of DMs that said on the first episode, this Jay's funny. Jay's hilarious.
That's my favorite compliment. More than being called beautiful, I get that compliment so much. Humbly. I love to be complimented on my intelligence, because I really do consider myself an intelligent person. But the best compliment I can get, Andy, you just made my day, is that I'm funny.
Yeah.
Because I'm funny, but then I be so serious.
Yeah.
And I'm so passionate. And so sometimes that takes over, and I'm like, I'm a funny bitch. I'm deep, but I'm funny.
Yeah. Well, I think we reached the time where I have to call it a day.
I think we got it.
Yeah,
I don't know what else.
we've been at it for almost 2 hours. Oh, just right there. And really quick, let me shout out the sponsor. This episode is sponsored by SolarX Insurance. Fast, friendly, and affordable coverage. Need an SR22? They can help. Ride a motorcycle? Covered. Already have insurance? They have options. SolarX helps all drivers no matter the situation. Call 877-736-4719. That's 877-736-4719 and get back on the road with confidence. And back to Jay. Any last words, Jay?
Once again, Andy, I just want to thank you. I think that I'm sure you know, but maybe you're not aware of what a blessing that you are, to your family, your children, to your wife, and to the listeners and the guests. It's not a little thing. It's a big thing. And so I really, truly have appreciated your kindness, your patience. I know I'm a hard person to schedule with. And I really do appreciate your
no problem,
your forgiveness and being able to work with me. And then just lastly, I want to leave people with your circumstances do not define you. And it literally takes just one day or one person or one opportunity for your whole life to change. So hold on to your faith, hold on to your booty, and just, try to ride it out.
Chin up.
Chin up. Exactly.
Well, Jay, like I end every podcast, thank you for riding with me. Talk to you soon.
All right. I'll see you.
Thank you for listening to Ride With Me, the Flat Tire Indie Podcast. You can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean.